talking about people that get locked into the balls and chains of the past, the things that hold them down, and give them PTSD, you know, something, the post trauma after the trauma. And that is the things that emotionally tie you to your memory. You know, we talk about the memory of sin, the memory of a loss, or the memory of a victory, the memory of life, or the memory of a death, the memory of a crime, and everything that's associated with it, the memory of something good, the pie that your grandma made, or a certain dish that you grew up with, or childhood candy. And people go to the fairs and they go to the amusement parks and they have the smell and the sound of all of that. And it takes you back, what do you say? To my, this takes me back to my childhood. You can buy old fashioned candy and old fashioned toys. People collect that stuff because they want to be reminded about their childhood, but not if you were abused. There's certain songs that are associated with something bad and other songs associated with something good. You know, people talk, remember that song? People that have been married for a while. Hey, we played that song at our honeymoon or our wedding dance, rather. We played that song, the first date we ever had. I remember that song at the high school dance, right? So you have all of these things that remind you where were you, as they say, when you heard that Kennedy was shot? Where were you when you heard that Reverend Martin Luther King was shot? I remember the day. You remember where you were? 'Cause you get the sight and the sounds of something. You can smell something, and it reminds you of a certain place or a certain person. And obviously, food. And so there's an emotional attachment. And because of that, a song or a smell or a taste or even a place. Oh, wow, that reminds me of home. That reminds me when I first gave my life to the Lord. But there are also things that can remind you of your sin. You know, back in the 70s when cannabis was really big and everybody was talking about it, every time you see a movie, Dumb and Dumber or Cheech and Chong and all these raunchy party smoking movies, what's always associated with it? Food. With movies, it's popcorn. With drugs, it's usually pizza and Coca-Cola, Pepsi. Uh, they call it. I saw a video on drug addiction the other day, and they were talking about the top foods, and the top foods that are in that list are pizza and burgers. And all of the guys in LA, they would go out for pizza and burgers, and those were the places that were open. And especially those famous chili burgers, Tommy's. People that party, they would go at night. You got to go to your Tommy's. You got to go to your Tommy's. Church people, they like going to Denny's after when they have their all night church services. But the party people, yeah, I tell you, it's the pizza and it's the burgers. It's interesting, and many foods become associative with that. Churches, they usually say the church lady with the church pies, right? You think of pie, and you think of cakes, the church functions, and so when you associate, if you've lived an unholy life, there are things in your subconscious mind that become associative to your addictive nature. And that's usually sodas, pizza, burger, chips. Oh, I forgot to mention the chips, didn't I? All kinds of chips. Those are the primary foods that get associated with that. And the memory is in that. And sometimes, if you can't have something really bad, you want to have something close to it. So you want to be close to it. one way or another. You can do that through food. You can do that through vocation. You can do that through location, right? I have one of my guys, he spends so much of his time surfing in the water, he can't ever consider moving inland because his brain has associated his happiness with only being near the water. Of course, that's a lie, but that's his addiction. He can't associate happiness outside of that. Some people can't associate happiness outside of cannabis. Some people cannot associate peace of mind outside of alcohol. It's because it has an associative nature now. It's an emotional tie. You're not going to be happy unless you smoke. You're not going to be happy unless you vape. You're not going to be happy. You're not going to be content. And so what happens is that you feed the anxiety by remedying it with more of the thing that is making you anxious. Tobacco does not ease, vapes do not ease your anxiety. They only add to it. And that's the lie that the devil has given people. And people that suffer with alcoholism, it's bad and it's obvious. You have the track record, the data to show you're ruining your friendships. And it's so funny about addiction that even with the facts in front of you, you ruin relationships and still think you were the right one and that you got the right answer. It will warp your reason and your mind to the point that it doesn't matter that the consequence is negative. You're in the right. That's what it does because you have an emotional tie. It's not even about rational reason, logic, or intelligence. You have an emotional tie. And no amount of reason or data or facts is going to change it. Many people get diagnosed with lung cancer and keep smoking all the time. Many people get diagnosed with cirrhosis of the liver and keep drinking. Many people get diagnosed with anger problems and keep fighting and beating. And it becomes such a degree of psychosis. And it's very sad to see that. And so don't be surprised when you meet people who keep bringing up something from a past because the bigger dog in their life was sin. But if you meet somebody and the bigger dog in their life when they were growing up was holy and righteousness, they're the opposite. Anything that reminds them of something holy and pure and good, right? They have an emotional tie to that. So you have different things that can happen in your life that will give you an emotional tie for the rest of your life that you may have to battle. Overcoming comes two ways. You completely lose all taste and desire for it, or you just learn to manage it and mitigate it for the rest of your life. It's like, well, they said, you know what, you can live, but I have an aunt. She's on oxygen. She's been on, she's in her, close to 90 now? She's got to be 89, 88, 89 or 90. And guess what? She's been on oxygen since I was a little child. I've always remembered her walking around with an oxygen tank. Now, how would you like to know that that's going to be your life for the rest of your life? It's her life. And she's living longer than most people who are not walking around carrying an oxygen tank. But she's doing it and it's working for her. And she's living with my uncle. And she's been able to maintain a life having that oxygen tank. Other people, you want to get a therapy or medicine you don't have to be on that your whole life, or insulin shots or dialysis or whatever. So to each person, overcoming may look a little different. It may look like you're going to be in AA meetings one every day for the rest of your life. I think RFK Jr., I think he says he does 2 or 3 in a day because his addiction was that bad. And so, but he's doing fine, but he's been sober. Robert Downey Jr., same thing, right? It's the will to do whatever it takes to overcome. It's the will. It would be nice, yes, so I will never have to go to an AA meeting again. Some people, they don't have to do a meeting a day, 2 or 3 a day. But if you're tracking your progress, and you might say, "You know what? I need this. I need a little more until I can," and I may need it for a long time or not. But you can gauge it and say, "You know, I think I can cut down. I can do 2 or 3." But if you start seeing, and the people that are in your life start seeing you slip emotionally, mentally, physically, you got to get back on that treadmill and say, "Oh, I got to go back in. Man, you know, insulin levels. So I got to cut this out, man. I tested the water to see. Oh, no, this isn't working. I better not do that. But cut that out." And memory is one of the biggest components to this, because of the memory of sin or the memory of righteousness. And you'll develop a pattern or a behavior where you will live your life by it. And you got to be able to diagnose it and understand it and be honest about it, else you will not be able to see it, regulate it, or mitigate it. And in some cases, yes, even for the few, eliminate it. But either way, you can get the victory and you can overcome it. But you got to recognize this and stop defending it. And if you just map out your life on a piece of paper and you see your patterns, and you can see the pattern, and you can see the consequences of your actions and your patterns and your conversations and your interactions. And usually the people that are closest to you know that. But those are the ones you latch out against the most anyway, because they do know that and they can see that. And you hate that. So you usually will avoid them or fight with them the most, because sin likes to hide. It does not like to be exposed. No roach wants to see the light turn on when you walk in, except when you get really infested and then the roaches stop caring. The roaches don't care anymore. They start respecting you. They don't care that you turned the light on. They don't care that you came in there. They flaunt their alcohol in front of you. They'll drink, they'll curse, they'll swear, they'll intimidate, they'll do all kinds of things. They stop trying to hide it. One thing about hiding is that it does show that you still have some shame and some humility, actually, because when you lose your shame of sin, you curse in front of the preacher, drink in front of the preacher, smoke in front of the preacher, you've lost your shame of sin. You don't even care anymore that someone sees you. You don't care that your children see it. Parents that try to hide it from their kids, give them credit. Well, should they flaunt it in front of them? Of course not. The gay community used to hide, but now they flaunt it. Islam used to hide the extremists of their violent ways. Now they flaunt it, their hatred and their anti-Semitism. And I've watched how different people that I know, how they've lost their shame. They flaunt their alcoholism and their addiction. They flaunt their language. They flaunt their greed or their stinginess or their lack of humility, their lack of charity, their lack of love. They flaunt it. They've lost the ability to be ashamed of who they are and with the way they live. And that's when God sears your conscience. You don't even care anymore. You've lost the ability. You removed all of the borders and alliances of the shame. Oh, I don't want you to see me like this. Oh, right? No, they've lost that. No, not wanting you to see me like this doesn't mean you don't want help. People that will reach out for help and will ask for help, but they don't flaunt it and they mind their words. Some people that I meet in the stores, they know that I'm a man of the Lord. They're not believers, and they're not even disciples of mine that follow my teaching, but they'll apologize if they say a coarse word in front of me, because they've learned to admire and respect me from meeting me. Or they'll speak very humbly. "Steve, I don't mean any harm. Can I ask you something?" "Oh, I didn't mean to say that in front of you." And I appreciate it, right? Because they don't owe me anything, but it means that they have a respect for you. And you'll find people that know you who've lost respect for you. They don't even respect you anymore. And you'll find a stranger will have more respect, more compassion, and more care. And the world is going down a precipitous cliff, abyss, into utter nihilism and annihilation. And it is so obvious in the modern world. It's in the news every day. And the rise of this Islamic anti Semitism, this Nazism is everywhere. But we have to learn that these things are things that were seeds that were planted in memory. Things that as you get older, you don't get more vulnerable to God. The bars come off, the borders erase, the breaches in the wall, and the thing that you've been holding back is busting through a hole in the wall to flood. And it's letting all of you're not reinforcing those things. You're not keeping it locked up in the chamber. And the devil is going to be locked up, the Bible says, for 1,000 years until the Lord decides to release it. So a lot of these things, your past, and we talk about dreams, and some of our dreams, the torment in our dreams are a lot from the things we've watched, the things we've seen, the things we've been exposed to, the movies, the songs, the interactions. And next, you're dreaming about somebody you haven't seen in 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, or you're having some horror in your dream and vision it, and it's all the seeds that have been planted in your memory. And the memory starts to go because of drugs and alcohol and trauma and all kinds of different reasons in age. And those little memory cell blocks begin to loosen, and those things in the past begin to come up. That's why it's not uncommon to see older people, even people with dementia. They can't remember something 10 seconds ago, but they can remember something 60 years ago. And they think, oh wow, the memory is great. No, the memory's failing. That's a sign of the memory failing. All of those things that should be locked away and have been stored, those things are now breached. They can come out, but you can't hold on to something from 10 seconds ago, right? You've all done it. You've gone in the store. What was it I'm coming here for? But you can remember something you bought a week ago. Well, there's various things that happen in our brain and our physiology that contributes to our demise, and it works the same way spiritually. So just remember that. Remember that. Meditate on the Lord and get a new practice in your life, behavior and patterns. Surround yourself with people that will help to remind you of what is right. Try to avoid the things that remind you of what is wrong. Be motivated about what is right, because smells and people and locations and vocations and foods and drinks can take you back to your sin. And that little chamber, that little dopamine hit will hit your brain about how good you felt when you ate that thing, or how good you felt when you drank that thing, or how good you felt when you heard that song. Music, especially the worldly music, you got to be careful. You listen to a lot of that while you were doing your drugs and alcohol or the partying, right? You got to stop having the nostalgic connection, the emotional connection, because that'll reaffirm it. So it says, therefore, if any man is in Christ, he is all things become new. Old things have passed away. I think Second Corinthians chapter 5. I think that's verse 17. Old things have passed away, all things have become new. And you start having to try to create new memories to erase the old ones, create new memories, new connections in the brain, new excitements that mean, listen, change your diet. They tell people trying to lose weight, don't eat the stuff you used to eat. That's why I tell people, think about what was your go-to food when you were on drugs and partying. Don't eat that anymore. Don't eat any of those things that you did. Don't eat that. Don't do those chips. Don't do those things. Don't do that drink. Don't do those sodas. Don't do any of that. Whatever it might have been. Because you're changing your diet. And you're learning to have an appetite for something more nutritious in your memory. And that means you might change the taste, change the taste buds, get an acquired taste, change the music you listen to, right? Each person, your past. So you might want to avoid, we used to say in Christian music, why are you making Christian rap songs that sound like what you listened to when you were partying? It's basics like I want to come to the Lord, but I want something to remind me of what I used to do when I wasn't with the Lord. So they'll come and they'll write songs that sound like what they listened to when they were not with God. In other words, I want God's music to sound like and remind me, I'll just change the lyrics, as long as the lyrics are, but because what you really want is a memory of your sin. So you want a song to remind you of the type of music you listened to when you weren't following the Lord. It's best to just change your musical taste and style altogether, rather than to have something that you're associating with how you used to party. Oh, wow, we can do a Christian version of this. No, 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 no. No, don't Christianize evil. Avoid it entirely. If that was in your past, avoid it entirely. If that was the association or the introduction of that style, avoid it entirely. Simple little thing, but it works. Try it and see what happens.